Hi everyone, Justin here, student at WGU. I tend to get questions related to how I write papers, how I make the process more manageable, less grueling, more enjoyable, I guess you could say. And so I thought I'd come on and create a quick video on how I set up my paper prior to launching into it. Now, I have created a couple of videos dedicated to paper writing. One of the ones that seems to be popular is how I write a paper in a day. It's from way back when I first started, and of course I could redo that. I'm sure there are more streamlined tactics that I have. However, I think when I rewatch that, most of that has stayed true, what I do regarding the process. So I would watch that video if you haven't already. I'll try to link that below. Now, just something to note is that generally you don't just start writing. Obviously, at WGU, what you have to do is you have to review the assessment criteria. And so they have a rubric, which is later on the interface. They have first they actually have instructions, and the instructions are kind of like what you're actually writing about. Generally in the teachers college, primarily in the master's program, it's not just like write about learning design. That's way too vague. It is very specific, and a lot of concepts are interconnected. Okay, so a first step to preparing for the paper is to actually go to your portal and figure out where the actual criteria is by which you're going to reference for writing. This is a screenshot, but I'm in the portal, and I just blurred out some of the contact information for the mentor or whatnot. But you can see here I would be clicking into the course. So this would be instructional design production, for example. So I'd click into that. This is a screenshot again, so that's why there's some gray bar at the top. But anyways, so you can see there's going to be an introduction, and generally in the teachers college they kind of give you a scenario or context. So you might be having to write about a personal lesson or a unit plan that you've done in the past, or it could be hypothetical. It could say, okay, you're going to be meeting with the director of your school if you teach in a school, and then you're going to have this special meeting, and in the meeting you're going to be leading this workshop and blah blah blah. So it's going to give you a situation, and then the requirements is basically what the paper is made up of. So A will be a main point that you need to write about. It'll be like a whole section. It could be pages in the paper, and A is made up of A1. And as you can see, A1 is then made up of multiple bullet points. So there's a lot that you're writing about. Each bullet point sometimes is a whole paragraph. So then 2 will probably be another subsection with other either sentences or paragraphs. And from what I remember, this is actually a paragraph for each one of these. And then now you go to B, which is a whole other main section, and then all the points. So anyways, so then there's C. And what I'm trying to show you is that there's a lot of components. And actually there was a D and an E. And so when you're looking at this, it's going to seem a little bit overwhelming. I'm going to say that. And that's why you want to kind of start to set up your paper either the night before, just to get yourself feeling like, hey, I can get the ball rolling here. I'm not going to let this overwhelm me. So then you're going to have later on the page, you're going to have another part underneath the instructions called the rubric. Now the rubric is going to tell you if you're actually meeting the competency criteria. So if I just go down here, like I showed you earlier, A1 was a part. So this is just like the title of the section, I guess you could say, but I'm not going to show you what the particulars are that you're writing about. And so generally I use these kind of as section titles, just exactly as is, like task analysis. Now I might have some, as I showed you earlier, there's some bullet points and there's some other points. You may have to actually have more titles than just what are here, but I usually use these at least as the base. Now it's not just looking at this for titles. I'm also always referencing what would approaching competence look like versus competent, because obviously you want to hit all these competent areas. If you don't, and you hit one of them that's in approaching, then you don't pass. So you always have to hit the competence in every section in order to move forward in passing the course. So then when I actually start the process, let's say I start the night before, because I've talked about this before, but I like to get myself ready beforehand so that it gets me interested, engaged, so that when I start tomorrow, which could be in the morning or it could even be later in the day, like let's say I have to work during the next day, then I'll push this till later on after work. Maybe I'll eat and then start this. But it kind of gets me feeling, It's a trick of the mind. It gets me feeling like I'm already started, even though I'm just doing some basic things. Now, because I've written papers before, I have kind of a general APA structure that I'm familiar with. I kind of open a past paper, and then I strip out all the content, and then I just put in the new titles. Remember, on the rubric, it had those titles, and so I'll put those in afterwards. So this is just like a title page, and I just stripped out all the actual particulars, but this is what I generally put on my title page. The reason why I have highlighted those, like, you don't need to keep those highlighted, but those are things that I'll have to come back to later. Like, I generally don't title my paper right away. Sometimes I title it halfway into the paper or even at the very end when I kind of got a full sense of what I've written about. Then what I do is I plug in those titles. So you remember instructional problem summary was the very first one, needs analysis, findings. I plug those in, and this is what I said earlier about, like, this is kind of a title and then a subtitle, and that's why there's different alignments there to show that this is part of this section. And then I just do this, which is kind of weird. Actually, that's not quite right. I think it should be, there's a certain amount of indents. I think that's too indented. But I put in fill text here, and what I do is just write fill text and then copy and paste it. So let's say I just did that, and then I copy and paste it. This is like kind of a shot in the dark a bit, because again, I haven't written the paper, but I'm taking a guess about how long this section will be. If I kind of know, okay, I'm writing about needs analysis findings, I know what a needs analysis is at this point. I'm not just randomly writing. You will have to go into a paper with knowledge. So I kind of know, okay, I'm going to make it about a paragraph, essentially, because it's part of the instructional problem summary. So I don't need a lot. I've actually already done a needs analysis in a different course, and I'll be taking that and rewording it and putting it in here. And then goals, blah, blah. And I really don't need a lot. I don't even need a paragraph. I need just basically a sentence or two, because this section will be like kind of like a goal statement or instructional goal statement. So it's just a statement. And so again, I'll have had that prior knowledge. Like, I know what a goal statement is. Now, this is a good point for me to stop and say, the reason why I'm able to excel and accelerate at paper writing is because I'm writing about things that I'm very familiar with. Like, most of this content, first of all, I have a background work experience in this area. The paper itself, I'm very familiar with. Now, if you have absolutely no background in this area, you're going to have to do a lot of time learning. So that might take you a week just to understand what the whole content is about, what the course is about, then to practice it. But I'm launching in because I have background in this. And there's a previous course I did in this program that kind of gave me the fundamentals of this, so I was able to refresh my understanding. So that's where I'm able to kind of go in and guess, because I have some knowledge. So I'm going to kind of throw in, okay, I'm going to write about this. In this section, I have to do like a chart, and I just threw in a chart here. And then for this paper, I need to do kind of a few different lesson plans to create a unit plan. And so, for example, I'm going to need a performance objective. Again, it's similar to like an instructional goal statement, where it's a statement. It's not like a paragraph. So I need a couple lines for that. And then this is just kind of giving you like an indicator of what I would have included. And then like some bullet points, because in this paper, they didn't need me to write the paragraphs. It just needs me to outline certain tasks within a unit plan. So I'm just kind of like, what I did was I kind of guessed, like, I'm probably not going to need a ton per section. So I'm just going to put in some fill text there, some, just for this section, I'm going to need shorter fill text, go on. So the reason why that these ones, again, are in yellow is this is going to require some creativity, because I'm actually creating a lesson plan. It's not just opinion, it actually requires ideation. Ideation means to generate ideas. So I'm just putting it here to indicate that, I'm going to actually have to go and maybe do some mind mapping, some free writing, some brainstorming. I'm going to have to really map this out before writing. So it's basically highlighting, it's kind of flagging it as like, hey, you have to work on this prior to just writing. But I'll have kind of gone in again, put in some fill text, put in some fill titles. But remember, I will have actually put in the titles directly from the rubric here. So, I'm just kind of putting in fill text, and then there's kind of a last part of the paper this is like, I would have had to include an assessment. Assessment is like a performance assessment or objective assessment. Again, I'm in the teacher's college, so assessments are very much integral to what I do as an instructor. So I'd actually have to build an assessment, put it in here. So I'm flagging it because that's going to require, I could even flag this. So I have to have the name of the assessment, but then actually build an assessment. I have to build an answer key. And then at the very bottom, I'd had some references. And even include, I just like created this. It's just like, and that's not even accurate actually. Once you write papers, you'll be able to really see how APA works, but that would have been more appropriate. This is for journals. Like if you have a book or if you have an online journal or whatnot, you need to include like the certain website and whatnot as well. So just to keep that there, because I will include some references probably. When I first started at WGU, I was writing a lot of content and I was writing so much information and referencing everything. But again, I don't think they need tons of professional literature to back up claims. So over the years, I've been able to kind of like condense my writing and make it more succinct, make it more concise. And I think that the evaluators actually appreciate that. I don't think they want papers to be like 20 pages long. I'm sure they're not going to penalize you if it is. And I don't think they want you to write 2 pages either. But there's kind of this happy spot, at least in the programs that I've been in, where, I try to aim for around 10 pages, a couple above is fine, a couple below. But because this course is only 1 paper, I can guess that it's going to be a little bit more involved, especially because it's going to be more than actually 15 pages, because I'm going to have to develop this assessment that I'm going to put in, which I haven't even put placeholder in. I just put the little like place it here, but that could be a whole page, that assessment. And then I'm going to have to fill out that chart at the beginning. So anyways, the whole point of doing this is to get a good sense of how much I'm writing, map it out, to get myself feeling like a bit of momentum, that I'm ready to go, and then I just start writing. And then again, my process of writing is very similar to what I talked about in that past video. I'll link that below. So if you have any questions about this, feel free to leave those comments below, and hopefully this was helpful. See you in another video.